Hello, it's Cleric again here, going over quick tips number 3. Now, I've spent quite a bit of time in looking at other people's streams, looking at their YouTube videos, trying to get a feel for maybe some things I'm able to help some people out with. I've actually popped into a couple of streams and made some suggestions for what I'm going to call quality of life improvements. Now, there's quite a few things in this game to pay attention to, and so I want to show just a couple of things off to you a little bit here. So number 1, I've been to a couple streams now. One in particular was really the person was agonizing over a choice over what OS tuning parts to pick the first time. And he did not realize, if you see it down here, you do have the option of resetting. That is not something that even I noticed the first couple of times. You can just reset your OS tuning options. And I'm like, oh wait, that makes my life easier. And I can honestly see where that would be an agonizing decision if you think what I pick is what I'm going to be stuck with permanently. Now, obviously you get enough OS chips, as you can see here, if you play enough of the game to get all of them. But I can see where that would be painful. So yeah, no, the cost is based in comb. So right now you see I have all the OS upgrades. It's 184,000 comb to request it. To reset, I only have a current 1,200 comb credits. And so I literally could just go farm tester AC twice, get the credits I need, and go do this. So don't fret too much over your choices. You do, if you find what you pick is not being very useful or helpful to you, you can just go in here and reset it, and the cost is based on how many chips you currently have in use. All right, so if I were to pick though, any one OS tuning part, I probably would pick this. It's direct hit modifier damage tuning. The reason this is that people sometimes like to have explosive weapons, energy weapons, melee, kinetic. This will help all of those. No matter what weapon you choose or what type you plan on using more often, this will aid you in doing this. So essentially what this does, direct hit damage is what happens when your enemy is staggered. You'll do extra damage when they're staggered enemies. It says right here, improves precision of attacks, increases damage dealt by direct hits. So your weapon stat has a direct hit damage modifier, and this will by percentage wise increase how much damage that does. So no matter what kind of weapon you're using or what kind of setup you have, when they're staggered, which by the way, stagger is the name of the game for all the bigger enemies and bosses, and even in PvP, although that doesn't matter as much. I'll get to that maybe sometime later. Although I think my previous quick tips actually mentioned how most of these things don't have effects in PvP. If you don't know about that, go back and watch that. It'll tell you a lot more. Anyways, this will help you no matter what damage type you pick, and so I recommend it for that reason and that reason alone. All right, if you have a need to kick things, I also like boost kick. Boost kick is great as long as you remember to kick. I have a habit, even now playing the game for multiple hours, in multiple hours of PvP at this point, I keep forgetting to kick. Why? I don't know. Marco's a newer mechanic and I keep forgetting to do it. I just keep forgetting to kick over and over again. I had a hard time remembering to kick even back in 5 in Verdict Day. It's just for some reason my brain is mentally blocked. So if you can remember to kick, this does a fair bit of damage and it does a lot of ACS stagger. And honestly, the heavier you are, the more it does. So if you're on a heavy, especially, this is helpful. And honestly, reverse joints, your kick animation is awesome. Tanks are great. They're all great. So if you can remember to use your kick and don't be a dummy like me and keep forgetting it, this is helpful. All right. The other thing I would recommend is Weapon Bay. Weapon Bay allows you to basically equip more hand weapons on your back and swap between them when you press those buttons. There's the main thing I want you to pay attention to with this melee weapon. So I'm going to go into the test here and I'm going to show you what I mean. So I'm going to go into the design to go to the test. They'd be like, well, why aren't you going to sorting and do an AC test? Well, this is the freebie, we'll call it 1.5, tip. If you look down here, there is AC test. I did not know this for the longest time, that when I'm messing around with my assembly, that I literally can just go down here and I press E for a keyboard, for example, mouse and keyboard, and it'll take me from the assembly screen directly into the AC test. I don't have to exit out of the assembly, go to sortie, go AC test, and say run it. That saves you a few seconds every time. It's a lot less frustrating. Something I didn't know about for a long time either, and so it was kind of sad when I found out, like, oh wait, I could just do it from the assembly. Whoops. So yes, go to AC test from assembly to test your stuff out. Okay, as I was mentioning earlier, is the reason I like this with the melee swap, the weapon swap, is this. Melee weapons are very strong, as you probably have noticed in this game. And I've actually found myself earlier in the game, in the early portions of the game, waiting on my melee before I make a move. What this allows you to do your classic 2-swipe. I can then swap and go to my other strike. I can then swap back and get ready for my next one. I then can swipe. I can swap back, get ready for this one. and I can swap back. Get the idea here? And that's a lot of damage you can output. You can go and do your big charge trick. Stagger enemy, swap over, and then quickly go boom, boom. Just imagine how handy that would be against certain bosses. So I think for that alone, this would make a lot of certain boss fights, even a lot of bigger fights against some of the other enemies in the missions much easier. So I would recommend the weapon swap for this reason alone. The ability to swap melee weapons is huge, and honestly, there's obviously projectiles that are great for this too. It's used a lot in PvP, especially with shotguns and things of that nature. So yes, I would recommend that. So melee swapping is a very useful tool against a lot of different missions and bosses. All right, go to my next quick tip is quick boost canceling. Now, if I go in, normally when you blade, you can either do one or a second one. So what you can do is when you get ready, you'll see the blade start coming out and I'll quick boost out of it. You can quick boost out of melee strikes. You can quick boost forward, quick boost sideways, you can even quick boost backwards if you want. This is, so essentially if you see yourself in a really bad spot and you're about to use your melee, you realize, oh man, it's gonna be on cooldown, it's gonna put me in a bad spot, I'm not gonna hit him, I'm not close enough, or they went past me. You can then quick boost real quick and get yourself out of your melee strike. And notice the cooldown is ready right away, so just keep doing it. Well, unless you miss it like I just did, at which point you can just kind of keep chaining it until you get in a position you like. Unless you're like me again and keep missing it, I'm gonna do it one more time. Like that, to use it all up. This is very helpful, but it's not just melee strikes. Well, some people don't think realize this yet. So normally when you have a back canvas on a biped, you have to go into firing stance to shoot it, right? Obviously that's the ear shot, so it has a pretty long cooldown, but it's the same thing with the linear cannon, with the linear rifles, excuse me. Its overheat's not nearly as long. So I actually can get ready to shoot, I can quick boost out of it. You find yourself getting ready to use it, it's not a good place. So I'll go back to the cannon. Oh, didn't shoot it. Oh, get in the fire stance again. Firing stance again, and quick boost. You find yourself about to use your cannon shot and found you're in a really bad spot, you can quick boost out of it as well. And by quick boosting out of it, you don't lose your cooldown on it, you can pick a better shot. So yeah, QB canceling is something you need to add to your repertoire. It'll help you out a ton. Now, next thing I want to show you is I want to show you a test. So the trainer you see up here, this is an option. As I mentioned in one of my previous videos, and you've probably seen other people mention it, is how much of an accuracy reduction you get for hard lock versus soft lock. When you're getting ready to do melee and kicks though, hard lock is supreme. The ability to home on your enemies for your melee strikes is huge. Whereas on soft lock, it's actually fairly easy to miss your kick. As you can see, if you don't adjust your mouse, you're gonna miss it. So if you are a person who melees a lot, or you find yourself kicking a lot, if you can get into the habit of switching to hard lock, kicking, switching off of it, and then using other things, that is something that would be actually very advantageous to you. So if you're going in for melees a lot or going in for kicks a lot, just temporarily click on the hard lock and then kick back out of it. You'll find your melees and kicks will miss a lot less often. All right, so that's that bit. Now, the next thing I want to talk about a little bit is the story. I saw some reviews and I saw some posts and things of people saying I beat Armored Core 6 and not realizing, okay, I guess technically that is true, saying they beat Armored Core 6, when in all reality, all they did was beat the first run through. This game has 3 different endings. It has 3 different endings that have 3 different bosses at the end. And you actually get different missions based on your choices and have different interactions. In fact, on my 3rd playthrough, there were some missions I just planned on skipping. As you go to my YouTube playthroughs, they should be up here pretty soon. You'll find that there was actually new interactions and new comms that happened in between things, where the missions were actually a little bit different, had different contexts, and actually gave more fleshed out story reasons. So yes, there are 3 different endings with 3 different bosses, and I highly recommend you go through all of them. The story gets more rich, it gets more fulfilled, it gets more fleshed out, and the bosses keep getting better and cooler. It's great. So in all honesty, with 3 different endings, 3 different bosses, doing it once is not beating the game. There's a whole lot more to it. Now, for some people, like, well, duh, of course, you probably heard people talk about it. There is a reason, a really good reason for what we call New Game Plus in this game, or in this case, New Game Plus Plus. You definitely want to do it to get everything you can possible out of this game. And the story is phenomenal. I don't care if people say it's not that soft on story. It's just subtle and has a lot of lore. Man, there's so many questions. In my Discord, there was probably like a 2-hour text conversation between like 8 different people just about lore. It's phenomenal. So yes, go through it 3 times. Now, one of my personal favorite things, and has been a long time staple in the Armored Core series, is the arena. And man, some of these people, their bios are amazing. The bios are something that this is one of my favorites. All right. So there has been some ACs, like back in AC2, or there was a guy who was assessed number 1. He probably number 1 if he got better, but he likes number 11 more because it has more 1s in it. The guy was assessed number 1. But look at this guy, for example, right? Nozak, Bitter Promise. An independent mercenary who snuck onto Rubicon hoping to get rich quick, taking advantage of the chaos brought about by extraplanetary corporations' forays. Under Nozak's economic theory, the funds of others are but extensions of his own resources. Thus, he continues to take on debt with no intention of repayment, as in his eyes, the money was his anyway. This does have a benefit of allowing him to buy the latest in corporate technology as soon as it hits the market. He considers the power of his AC an asset to his credit score. The amount of flavor and character in these arena opponents is astounding. That is a Armored Core staple. A lot of these arenas have always had amazing backstories. A lot of them are very dark or gritty, but a lot of times they're kind of comical and slapstick like this. This is a great example of one I love. This is one of my favorite ones in Armored Core 6. I think it's funny. It's like your resources are actually just but extension of his own resources. This is great. So if you're just kind of cruising through the arena and just looking for your fights, I would recommend going back through the arena and reading the different arena bios. I realized I didn't switch here, but let me show you. Nozak, right here, this guy I'm talking about, he's ranked 26E. This is fantastic. His backstory is so amazing. Seriously, go through, read the opponents, read all the different arenas. A lot of them are awesome. A lot of them are really funny. Seriously, just go through and read the arena opponents. It's awesome. So that gets to my last point. There's been a lot of talk about PvP, and one of my more popular quote unquote clickbait. It wasn't meant to be clickbait, but whatever. Not time to talk about the tank meta discussion. If those who haven't seen it, Celtic Spear from Armored Core Discord ran the first we call the Week 1 tournament. Had a bunch of entries in it, and the guy ended up winning was a float tank with Coral missiles and siege missiles. Something that I don't think a lot of people know about. I knew about the Coral missiles a little bit. I knew about some of the options with it. I didn't abuse it this far to that length, but I knew it was a thing, but didn't realize how much of a thing it was. So dual Zermans, yeah, they were used a lot, and a lot of people were complaining about how there's only certain builds people can use. Now, yes, there's always going to be metas in Armored Core, and there's going to be always unbalanced metas in Armored Core. I'll need to remind you how basically the Carousel was universally not used in Armored Core 2 tournaments because the Carousel was just busted. In Armored Core Silent Line, for example, the MG800 was universally just gone out of most places. There are all kinds of parts that have been banned and removed. The meta back and forth for answer was battle rifle only for the longest time because battle rifles were literally your only options to actually hit through the lag. So there's always been metas that kind of abuse the things and their mechanics of the system. But there is a lot of fun to be had in PvP. First of all, find your playstyle, find your builds you really like, and just go have fun with them. Just enjoy them for what they are. And not only enjoy them for what they are, and I'm going to plug my Discord here. My Discord just loves having fun. They have a variety of wide builds. There's so many different options. They have so many crazy things. Yeah, there are some meta parts in there, but also there's some funny ones in there. Some interesting and unique builds. We actually just ran the other night a whole melee tournament. It was nothing but melee options. So we just had a bunch of melee fun for like an hour and a half. There's so many good ways to have fun in this game, but honestly, the best way to have fun in this game is to find other fun people to play it with. So if you don't have a lot of people you can play it with or don't really enjoy it, you're worried about it, or you want to just test builds or build in theory craft. A lot of our guys in the group have like Cassis, who is one of our mods that has like 170 hours in the game at this point. He knows most of the parts by name at this point. He can almost name out in suggestions. He can give you suggestions off of his head. He's happy to go into testing with you in many cases. Actually, a lot of guys in our Discord are happy to do testing with you. just to try out different builds. So there's a link in the description to the Discord towards the bottom. I recommend you join it. We're a pretty cool and chill place. It's the best way to, in my opinion, not just our Discord, maybe other Discords too, your friends. The best way is just to hang out and talk and have fun. So there is a lot of fun to be had in this game. There was actually the PvP in this game is some of the most fun I've had in Armored Core. PvP wise, just in general, the game is just straight up fun to play. But I can see where the fun can be drained out if all you get is some guy flying away the whole time, missile boating you, or just going around and just zimmering you. It's fine. We don't do that where we're at. We don't do that kind of thing in our games, in our PvP. We go in and look for wild and crazy things and try to make things, different things work, and it's a complete blast. So if I could just plug my Discord, go join it, be a part of it, say hi, we'll all wave hi to you. And if you see people PvP, there's looking for group things in there, go in there and just have a good old time. And that's your quick tips for today. If you like more of this kind of content, some kind of quality of life, or maybe some things you don't realize are easy to miss, please like and comment and subscribe. There's a membership thing. You want to be a membership. We have 8 members now, which is awesome. And I really appreciate everyone taking their time. Honestly, Armored Core Discord, all you guys are amazing. Thank you so much for being a part of the community. You guys have been a beacon of hope in this thing as far as the different communities that have been popping up, and it's been a ton of fun to get to play and share this game and experience with people, especially a ton of new first-time fans. And I hope you learn to love Armored Core as much as I do, as I have for the last couple of decades. So that's the video. I'll see you all in the next one. See ya.